All right, so welcome to part 3 on arbitraging Social Security to increase your retirement income. We got here a trusty old whiteboard here. So we looked at the paper twice now in depth with John Chauvin and Hila Bronstein. Let's see, Sita Slavov and Jason Scott. So Chauvin is from Stanford. Sita Slavov is from George Mason. Jason Scott is with Financial Engines, which is merged with the Rick Edelman's firm for the I forgot what they call it, Edelman Financial. I can't remember what they call it. And then we got Hila Bronstein, who used to be at Stanford and might still be, but now is with Cornerstone Research. Not familiar with them. But anyway, so the basis of the study of their paper was that you can arbitrage Social Security. It's one of the cheapest and almost, I hate to say guaranteed, but the most obvious arbitrage opportunity that exists in order to enhance your retirement income. In fact, they give a couple different examples of other arbitrage using your 401k to pay off high credit card debt. You can save a couple $100, maybe a couple thousand over the course of 20 or 30 years. Using 401ks and not paying off your mortgage, but instead deferring taxes till your tax rates are lower, again a couple $1,000. But this one, the arbitrage is significant. In fact, I'm even going to take it one step forward and show you how significant this will be for sure. So don't forget to subscribe. Man, I love this stuff. So if you got a study you want me to look at, I can dive into this. That doesn't mean I know it. I mean, my goodness, some of these guys use numbers. I'm like, which is why I never studied econometrics and went into economics in that field. Because I just, look, numbers I like okay. To some degree, they bore me, frankly, because I like the human being part of this, which is why I love psychology. I just wish psychology was not dominated by craziness, because there's such a good use of psychology, the way individuals react to what's in that brain of theirs. I love it. But human emotions, some numbers, psychology, I love it. So anyway, if you have a study you want me to look at, by all means, send it along. So let's dive right into this here. I'll take my trusty PVC pipe. So we're going to use 2 people. Now, these are the numbers specifically from what the researchers, Chauvin et al., used looking at Social Security, looking at the annuities that you'd buy at a certain percentage. So these are numbers right from the paper, which I put in the link in the show notes. So here we got 2 people. Now, they didn't do it. The researchers didn't do it the way I'm doing it here. The reason I'm doing it here, because I always think it's easier to compare 2 people side by side. Their study was tough for me to follow initially until I got here and started writing it down and I could visualize it. In fact, I almost didn't use it because I didn't capture it right away. It took me 2 or 3 times to read it before I finally said, ooh. And when I was reading it, I had to write it on the blackboard here or the whiteboard simply because it wasn't sitting in. Again, I'm not a genius. I need to see the visual and I need to think about it by looking at it. And so the way they did it, what for me confused me. They just had John. They wasn't comparing John to anybody else. They just had John. And I want to use John and Jane here to show you the difference here because I think it'll be helpful for me to explain and hopefully for you to understand. All right. So John and Jane. Now we both have an income need of $27,000. Okay, so they both need $27,000 to live on. They both have $25,000 of Social Security at their full retirement age of 66. I didn't write that down, but the full retirement age is 66 when they take their Social Security, and will get $25,000 a year. All right, so that's what's going on here. Again, I'm using the exact numbers from the Chauvin's piece. He actually had them taking $13,500. I just doubled it up to show you because I think $13,500 of an income need is not realistic, and $12,500 for Social Security benefits not really realistic. So I just doubled it up. All right, so we got $27,000 income need for both John and Jane. This is 66 years old. So John says he's going to take Social Security at 66, his full retirement age, which means he gets his full PIA, his primary insurance amount, which is $25,000. But he still needs $2,000 to make up the difference because he needs $27,000. He's only got $25,000, and so he buys an inflation-adjusted annuity, all right, to get the $2,000 a year that he needs to complement his Social Security, and it's guaranteed each and every year for the rest of his life to keep up with inflation. Now, one of the things about the annuity concept is what the Chauvin et al. Talked about is that of the 3 annuities, one is a private retail annuity through like USAA. 2 is a defined contribution, defined benefit through your employer plan, 401k, TSP, something like that. And 3, of course, is Social Security. Of the 3, Social Security by far and away is the best, the cheapest one for you, without question. It's not even debatable. If you're a man and woman, how old you are, Social Security is by far and away the cheapest annuity you can buy. The second one, most of the time, and again, not every time, but most of the time would be annuitizing through your 401k or your employer plan. Now, just to reiterate on this, in case you haven't watched the other videos, and the reason for that is simple. Your employer plan takes a group of individuals, of retirees, soon-to-be retirees, and they say you got Martha over here who smokes and eats Cheetos all day long, and you got Jane over here who's a triathlete. Between them, there's an average person, all right? So they have this average person. That average person's life expectancy is 14 years, whatever. So their annuities are based on that average person, of which you get Martha who smokes, eats Cheetos, doesn't just watches Bob Barker all day long, versus Jane who lifts 8,000 million pounds and whatever. And so because of that, we're combining these two. We have the average person right in the middle there, which would be just an average person relative to Jane and Martha. But if you're Jane, your life expectancy is not 14 years. Your life expectancy is 26, whatever. If you're Martha, your life expectancy is also not 14 years. It might be 8 years, whatever. And so what happens is, in this scenario, Martha will die earlier, and her benefit that she no longer gets because she's dead now it goes to Jane. It's not quite like that, but that's exactly how it works in terms of, Jane doesn't say, Martha, you should die so I can get your benefit. But that's how the insurance company uses what's called mortality credits, which is why an annuity is so just overlooked and shouldn't be. People don't get it. The mortality credit is hugely beneficial of an annuity. So because Jane survives her life expectancy, she's getting cash money. She's just getting paid more than what she should have from an actuarial basis of her life expectancy. So that happens with a private company 401k pension plan. With an individual market, there's a lot more subjective. All right, so they're looking at Jane. They say, okay, Jane, a lot more specifically of her cohort relative to her life expectancy. She's not necessarily grouped with all the Marthas of the world. She's grouped with a bunch of other Janes, which means her average life expectancy might be 18 years for that group, as opposed to 14 years when you combine Jane and Martha. Confusing, I know, but life insurance companies aren't stupid. They realize if they're going to be committed to Martha or to Jane, they have to make sure they have the funds in order to pay Jane, and that can't just be with throwing a bunch of Marthas in there. It's got to be looking at more so a bunch of Janes for life expectancy, which will be much higher. The longer the life expectancy is, the less the insurance company pays. The shorter the life expectancy is, the more the insurance company pays, which is why it's critical to understand those three things. Social Security is the cheapest. Your company's plan, if you annuitize it, is the next cheapest, and the last one is the private one. I think Chauvin et al., they said almost like every time this is true. Certainly with Social Security, but with Social Security, with a defined your employer plan vis-a-vis the private annuity, is true. I think they almost said 100% of the time, something like that. Pretty significant. All right. So anyway, another thing about the annuity though is, don't forget, Social Security is political. This one of my pet peeves. All these people say they're going to take Social Security away. I said, when has Congress ever taken money away from citizens, especially citizens who vote en masse like senior citizens do? Senior citizens certainly vote a whole lot more than my 18-year-old daughter's crew who goes to Georgia Tech. They just don't vote as much as senior citizens do. So the idea that they're going to take Social Security away from somebody who's voting en masse, maybe it could happen. Maybe they'll take it from the rich people, but they're certainly not going to take it en masse amongst the mass population. I just don't get it. And so what that means is, because it's political, it's more than likely to keep up more so with the rate of inflation than maybe an insurance company. Because Social Security, if they don't, I'm just telling you, you think there's no political wins that they look at? Trust me, there is. And so if a bunch of Congress people go to the Social Security Administration, the Center for Medicaid and American Studies, and say, we need to adjust this, I guarantee there's going to be political posturing going on, which makes the CMS say, okay, we're going to have to do something to keep these guys off our back. I'm just telling you, it's politics. Insurance company, on the other hand, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the board of directors and say, I'm Miss Martha, you guys didn't raise the annuity to keep up the cost of inflation as much as you should have been. I mean, you're dealing with all kinds of life insured. You're dealing with other annuity people who weren't even having a cost of living adjustment. You have no voting mechanism. And then you got the board of directors who got to appeal to shareholders anyway. So unless there's en masse a bunch of people who are saying you are literally falsifying or essentially taking money or violating the contract to keep up with the rate of inflation, you're going to have a lot harder time to get your annuity raises with cost of living adjustments than it would be on Social Security. In my opinion, I can't prove that. It just inherently makes sense to me. Once you sign the annuity contract after that initial 30 or 45 free day look period, there's no going back. It's irrevocable at that point, and you have no political pull. Social Security, on the other hand, a whole lot more political pull because you are one of many who are all facing Social Security cost of living adjustments. Very, very few people actually annuitize, which means your pull is minimal. That's a fact. All right. So in this case, the cost to buy this annuity, he's going to get, John's going to get this annuity. It's going to pay him $2,000 a year, adjusted for inflation, each and every year for the rest of his life, all right? And this is just on John. If we did this with John being married to, say, Jane, it'd be a whole lot more because it's 2 lives. But in this case, it's just on John's life. So basically, he's got to pay $44,580 up front to get an annuity that's going to pay him $2,000 a year for the rest of his life. And again, you can't see where I'm pointing at. I'm just using the research that Chauvin et al. Provided to us. And they looked at it, I think incomeannuities.com, and I think they looked at the principal as well. All right, so that cost him $44,580. So he bought an annuity from $44,580, which he took from his portfolio. So now he has a $25,000 a year in Social Security, plus he has an income annuity of $2,000 a year. That matches his income needs of $27,000 a year. Now the income needs is going to be adjusted for inflation. So want Social Security, and so want the annuity. So as long as inflation is even Steven on both sides of the equation, he's fine. He'll never have to worry about running out of money. Now he has $55,420 left over in his portfolio because that annuity costs $44,580. And again, if this was a married couple, it'd be even worse. Jane, on the other hand, read Chauvin's work, and she goes, no way, Jose, there's no way I'm taking Social Security at 66. I'm going to wait a year because I like the idea of arbitraging the benefit of waiting to take Social Security. So in this case, Jane has an income need of $27,000, but she gets nothing from Social Security, nothing. Why? Because she's going to wait until the next year to take her Social Security benefit. She's also going to have nothing from an annuity. She doesn't want an annuity. She just feels, I don't want to. I'm going to buy the cheap annuity, which is Social Security. She has a portfolio of $100,000. All right, so Jane's got a portfolio of $100,000, as does John. But Jane needs $27,000 to live on for this 1 year, and she will take it from her portfolio, which is $27,000. So now we go up here, and Jane's $27,000 out of the age of 66 income need is met by just taking a lump sum distribution from her portfolio. All right, so now we have 2 different accounts. They both, in the year 1, you have 66, they both have $27,000 of income. Jane is solely derived from her her portfolio because she defers Social Security and she's not taking an annuity. John, as we talked about before, is coming from Social Security and the annuity. So after this year, John's got $55,420 and Jane's got $63,000 in her portfolio. So Jane has almost $9,000 more than John. So the question is, okay, but what happens next year, Josh? Well, we take our trusty calculator and we say, Jane, next year, your $25,000, because you get a 1.8% delayed earnings credit, will grow to, voila, $27,000. So next year, her Social Security will be to cover the exact extent, and that's without cost of living adjustments. So next year, her Social Security will be $27,000. All right. Her portfolio at that point will be $63,000. Let's just do this. And she will never have an annuity because Social Security always covers the cost of her living. In this case, his portfolio will be $55,420. All right, so $55,420 will be his portfolio, John's. So the difference between the two right there of $63,000 and $55,420, let's take our trusty calculator and do the numbers. So we got $63,000 minus $55,420. That's $75,880 right there. So Jane is already ahead of John by $7,580. And that's the arbitrage right there just in year 1. So an immediate arbitrage opportunity exists of $7,580 for Jane over John. She immediately made $7,500 more without any risk. In fact, less risk, because now her risk is solely on Social Security, where John is contingent on the insurance company to provide a serious cost of living adjustment, where Social Security is contingent on the political posturing of Congress and the voters. All right, so now we go $63,000 is what she has remaining in her portfolio. John's got $55,420. Let's take a look where we are 20 years from now, shall we? So John's got $55,420. This is present value. Not putting anything else in. He'll be so at the age of 87. He'll have, and let's say he got 6% a year. He will have $177,739 in his portfolio. So let's go over here. And I tell you what, let's just erase this whole thing. So we already talked about income needs. All right, portfolio 55,420, 55,420, 55,420, 55,420. Number of years, 20. Interest, 6. Payment, 0. Future value, 177. Calculator 739 177 739. All right, so let's see what old Jane has there. So now she got 63,000 in her portfolio. You got same thing, 20, 6, and 0. You ready? Take a guess. I haven't done this yet, so let's take a guess. What do you think? I'll say 193. I'll just say 193. Present value 202. Yeah, that's pretty close. So I was Bob Barker. I underbid, which meant I can win. 202. We'll be exact here. 202,049. All right. So in this case right here, Jane's arbitrage 202,049 minus 177,739. $24,310 in Jane's behalf, simply by doing this basic guaranteed arbitrage. Nothing fancy there at all. I know you're saying, well, what if you didn't do the annuity? I know that. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, the arbitrage strategy of an annuity is relative to Social Security. It's just you shouldn't do it. It's like the Chauvin et al. Say, it is a mistake every single time, without question. It's a mistake. Now, what if you only took $2,000? What if you only said, well, look, I'm only going to take $2,000 a year from the portfolio in order to generate the excess I need? And we'll do another video on that to see, because Jane's portfolio is not being tapped into at all because Social Security covers the entirety. Well, if John said, I'm only going to take $2,000 a year adjusted with inflation to get me to where I need and not do the annuity, we'll do that another time for sure. But in this case, it's not debatable. To take Social Security early and taking a private annuity is the wrong answer. If you're going to take an annuity, you need to defer Social Security. It's not debatable, my friends. And again, if we looked at John and he had a wife, John and Mary, it's sick. I mean, the amount of money that annuity would cost relative to a single person is that much more expensive. Why? Because the insurance company is on the hook to cover not just John's life, but John and Mary's life, which is significantly more risk to the insurance company, which means they significantly got to price it higher. And that's the story about arbitraging Social Security and the easy, simple way to make, in this case, $24,000 more overall, with less risk. And this is just the beginning. There's tons of examples you can do in this. Tons of examples. This is just the beginning. If Mary or Jane were to wait an extra 2 years and got an extra 8% a year, the amount of money that Jane could get relative to John because she defers Social Security is exponential. It's amazing. So now you know. Defer, my friends, defer. The government isn't going to take your money. I mean, anything could happen. But the idea that Trump or Obama or Hillary or who's the next guy, Pence, someone's going to say, we're going to take that guy. So it's not, I can't, come on. We are still in a representative Republican democracy. So the idea that your representatives are going to deny you the money that you were counting on. All right, so don't forget to subscribe. Love to hear comments, questions, thoughts, thumbs up. Love to hear them. Don't forget to post them below. And as always, go to the blog at heritagewealthplanning.com, and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.